Hi, welcome to I Tried to Eat My Phone. As always, with me are Mike Norbert and Todd Murphy. And uh,
Yo.
yeah, here we are, episode number 3.
Hey.
I
We officially made it to 3. That's a pretty big.
Yeah,
that's
I
a pretty
know.
good milestone.
It's some longevity.
We haven't been banned from the internet yet.
I haven't killed you off in the script yet, so you're good.
Yeah.
We are going to talk about binge-worthy shows in a little bit. First, we're going to start with some news. Okay, the monolith. Can I just tell you real quick that I spent, when I am on my grave someday, I am going to say I can't get the 2 hours back that I had to watch Stanley Kubrick's.
Here's the thing. Is a monolith just another word for like a thing? Is that just what it is?
Well,
I mean, seriously.
mono, single, right?
One thing? Because it's
like
just a thing. I feel like they wanted to say, we found a thing in the desert, but they're like, you can't just say thing in the New York Times or wherever. You have to say something that sounds interesting. So it's called a monolith.
Well, and it was 3-sided too. You know, the monoliths in 2001 were 4-sided. So, I mean, wouldn't you think they'd have a different name for it? A trilith or I don't know, something else.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, they found a metal object in the desert.
I'm going to do something fancy here. I'm going to see if this works, but I'm going to share a screen.
Share your screen.
Because I have a picture of the monolith. There we are. So, okay, yeah. Nice. So it's 3-sided. So
is it backlit? What's happening there? It's backlit.
It looks way fancier than the
Are there extension cords? They're like, this is by aliens. There's like a Menards extension cord running to the back with like a floodlight. Must have been aliens. But
the aliens are going for artistic lighting.
Yeah,
right. That was like half of the article was like the people saying that it was put there by aliens, and I'm like, did you?
It's not impossible. They just all you need is really a truck or a hatchback, and then you just drive it in there and drop it off.
A spacecraft or a forerunner, one of the two will work.
That would suck if they came down and they're like, they had this big plan. It was like, 10,000 light years away. And they're like, what are we going to do when we get there? And we're like, light, this is the plan. We're going to put a metal thing in the desert. Where? What? Just in the middle of nowhere. They're going to love it. It's going to tell them everything they need to know about us.
It feels very like
who this thing's from the aliens.
It feels very like mildly Planet of the Apes like type weird like really this is what you have like for 2020.
I feel like it's pretty good. I feel like it's pretty amazing that someone got in there and put it there without anyone noticing.
Like I was thinking about that too. Like, how did they pull this off? The appearance and then the disappearance. With no one seeing it because
no one saw it in like a Subaru Baja driving away from the site, like in the back, right. Like with bungee cords over it.
Like hanging off the back with the little flag, like hanging over the tailgate.
There it is. I knew it.
Keep 10 feet back. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but my favorite part is like, so they said it was spotted by wildlife officials who were counting sheep now.
I saw that. Come on, you can't write this stuff.
Whose job is that?
These guys really needed this. They were so tired. They got up and they needed to sleep.
1, 2, monolith. 3. Wait, what?
1. Yeah, they get yes. 1.
Oh my god! I'm seeing a double or triple.
There's like
monoliths.
guys in a helicopter and they're like 5, 6.
Oh God, that's good. That's good. You have to like the credit by the most famous artist, which is clearly like a foreign national, like horribly timed Facebook group. We are best artist. We leave thing in desert most famously. We like money. Most famous object desert.
Two of our objects are not that far from each other, California and Utah, and one may or may not be ours, and it's in Romania.
Yeah. He's like, could you give us more pictures? I cannot. There was no more room on my SIM card to put more than 3 pictures. But
And too many pictures of my dog on there. I couldn't. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. No, like, please.
They're
Let's
called
give you your own.
they're called the monolith as a service.com. That's their website. And it says delivery and installation are included.
$45K to have your own monolith.
Yeah. We have to keep up on this because I think that the best thing is going to be finding the next article, which be like some bros at some fraternity in California ordered one just to have it. And they're just, playing beer pong on top of it now. That's what's coming next. Like, please be careful with the monolith. Keep it backlit. Take your own photos. We don't have room on our drive.
So it just so happens, coincidentally and ironically, that my daughter's cinema and composition class right now is studying 2001. I mean, you would not believe it. So we were watching it last night, and I said to Jillian, you know that there was a monolith just found in Utah, right? She's like, what are you talking about? It's like right while the monkeys are like going crazy around this thing, and so I send her the link to the story and she's like, oh my God, this is insane. What? And I'm like, yeah, I think it was a joke. The one on TV is real. The movie one was real, but this one's a joke.
Yeah, right. You don't want to you want to confuse those two things.
Yes.
Well, yeah, the monkeys were very real looking in that scene. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's like it's like the gorilla on SpongeBob, basically.
Yes.
Right. I love how they're very elusive about it because it says something about it says, did me and the most famous artist make the monolith? To which the most famous artist replied to their own story, not no.
English as a second language, unfortunately, but that means yes. No, it means not no. Yeah, it means yes. That's what it means. Oh God, yeah. That's awesome. Apparently they're writing, what does it mean? It's like, it's your thing. You said it's yours. You tell us what it means.
For $45,000, you can find out what it means.
Yes.
You can guess if it's
$45,000. I know. I'm like, what? How? What?
There's some like the real artist who actually did this is like so bummed out. He's like, I lugged that thing all the way to the desert, and these idiots come in with the monolith. What is it? monolithasaservice.com. It's art.
As a service.
It's art.
That's got to be high up on the list of necessary services, right? The installation of a monolith in my backyard.
It's not permitted, I'll tell you that. This couldn't happen in Chicago. The unions would burn that thing to the ground.
I was going to have some plumbing done, but obviously I need a monolith first.
Wait, was that welding permitted? Hold on a second. You're going to have to pay. We're going on strike. That's it.
Have you talked to the county about that?
Get the inflatable rat.
All right, so let's move on to the short article about the driver pulled over. Driver pulled over for using folding lawn chair as a car seat.
intrigued by
So
this fact that this whole thing is just came from a tweet. Like, can the police department just tweet? Like, they're like, look at these idiots. It's like, wait, you're supposed to be the police.
I will tell you that the folding lawn chair made me think of like, so what you could do is have the folding lawn chair as your seat in the car. And then in Chicago, when you're pulling into your parking spot that you have shoveled out,
yes,
then you
that's a
put
good.
your lawn chair in there to
That's
make
true.
sure nobody parks.
That's true. I was bummed that we didn't
That
talk
was like
about that
my
last time.
first, that was my first thought, was like, hey, I shoveled out my parking spot or my parking spot
Yeah.
in front of my house on a public street, and I'm gonna put a lawn chair in there that tells me not to park
Richie
there.
Daly
But
said
I
it was
like,
fine. Richie Daly's like, if you do that, you can put whatever you want out there, and you
It's your
could beat.
spot.
And if some guy comes and tries to take it, you can beat him with a shovel. It's fine. We're gonna look the other way. Just make sure. It's like I don't think you should be saying that, Mr. Mayor. I don't think that's a good idea. I was bummed when I read this because I was thinking the same thing. And we didn't talk last time about the Chicago stuff with the being able to shovel out your own parking spot and then put like lawn chairs out there.
Shays Lounge. That's my spot.
Dude, it's like old ladies getting in fights with broom handles over their parking spot out in the street.
we had
This
a guy
isn't
put a bookshelf out there once when we were on Kenmore.
A lot of effort.
It's like,
It's a lot of
dude,
effort.
and the funniest part, it had books on it.
Of course
like,
it did.
You literally, you took it out.
Did you take the armoire? Who took the armoire? Books in it. I love that. Who touched those books?
Right? Yeah. You can't like, an empty bookshelf would be too easy to move, or the wind would blow it over. So you gotta leave the books out there. Maybe that was like the precursor to those little, the local library, the libraries on a post.
That's how it started. People are walking by borrowing it. I'll return it later.
I'm sure his intent was very good.
The winter lending library park saving bookshelf.
Just swinging at people with an aluminum baseball bat later in the day. You could borrow a book, but you better not park there.
I just love that this guy was like, I don't have a car. First of all, what happens to your car seat? That
The other
I've
car
never
seats
lost
are in
a
there.
car seat.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's never been like a problem. I have a 2001 Corolla. Still has the seats.
Still seats, all four seats.
All four seats.
This
So-
one's missing only one of the three seats. The other
How
three seats in
does
the
your
photographs
seat
look
go-
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look fine.
How does your seat go missing? What happens there?
I assume you removed it on purpose for reasons that probably are not for public consumption.
Yeah, my guess was he lost it in a poker game.
Or a bet. Maybe it just was a pure bet.
Yeah.
I mean, this was Canada, so I would assume, they're pretty nice up there. No one stole it from them or anything.
Yeah,
Maybe they
this
took
is
it
just-
ice fishing and they thought, it was.
That's a really likely idea.
And then they worried that the car was going to be too heavy to go out on the ice, so he took
That's
a seat
right.
out, tossed it out, and then they, took it out on the ice, and it survived.
That is, if it's not ice fishing, then it probably is something like I took it out and attached it to like a riding lawnmower or snowmobile or something like that. That's right. Because the other three seats are fine.
Yeah.
The car itself isn't like, the car appears to be like a fine, pretty nice car. Like they literally just like took the seat and removed it. And everything else seems to be pretty normal. They got some paint in the back seat. Looks like they're going to put together remodel the bathroom, some stuff like that. I feel like this is like, I was just watching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
Oh
which
yes.
is a Thanksgiving tradition. And I feel like, like the police officer, walks up and, do you feel that this car is safe for highway travel? I do. You have no working gauges? Nope.
Well, I
You
love
have no
that
running lights. Not a one.
I think the driver got cited for driving without a seatbelt or something too, or is that what
Yeah.
it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, impounded. he
Inoperative
was-
seatbelt, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah.
Unsafe vehicle operation and driving in it with an inoperative seatbelt. So, which I would
apparently,
say,
apparently the garden hose like didn't work.
I was thinking the same thing.
Couldn't like strap
Like
himself
rope,
in.
like a bungee cord. You could, everyone knows that. Everyone knows you put something around you, just something.
the bungee cord, like,
Oh, this guy's having a bad day. And it's raining, and he's like, just trying to get. He's got a seatbelt in there though.
yeah.
Probably
Poor
nowhere to
guy.
attach it. There's a seatbelt in there though. That's the bummer of the whole thing. Maybe just he should be able to remove it. He's a dragster. I love Canada.
All right, we'll let him go off with a warning. So. All right,
Poor guy.
binge watching shows. So I want to know
My favorite thing.
Okay, so what did you first watch during the pandemic? What was your first kind of show that you started binge watching when the pandemic happened and you were like, all right, we're in for a lot of TV?
I was just thinking if I just get through 2 weeks, we'll be done with this back then. They're saying like 2 weeks or something. So like, let's watch some
Makes
stuff.
me think of the Money Pit when Tom Hanks and Shelley Long in the Money Pit, and they like are redoing their house, and the construction guys keep being like 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I think. Wasn't Tiger King like around the time was that later? I feel like Tiger King was the big, was the big. I'm sure I watched some stuff before that, but I feel like Tiger King was one of the first things.
I think that was like the mid-March binge. Like everyone watched it immediately. Like the first week or two that we were all, home, everyone's like, oh, Tiger King. And like, went up to number one immediately.
Yeah. And then
we were late to the party on that one. We didn't watch it for maybe 2 months later, but it still was just as bananas.
It's the best. Sometimes I like when you stumble on those things though, and you haven't heard about them, and you're like watching it, you're like, what is going on? Is this supposed to be a joke or like what? Like people talking about this? I don't know. What is happening? Yeah. And I think that's the first thing I binged. I think so. And then probably a bunch of bad reality TV.
You sound shameful.
I know, right.
It's so, I get into these. God. Yeah, I get into these
I'm
things.
So sorry.
I tell my wife that, I don't like, she likes to watch The Bachelor, and I don't like The Bachelor, but then I will watch The Bachelor, but only for like the first 3 or 4 episodes when everyone comes and they all get drunk and act like idiots. And like, it's a complete mess, and people are just like fighting and jumping in the pool with their pants off and like drinking. And like, then it gets like, when they get to I think I really have feelings, like, boo, I'm out of here for that. Like, I'm like, no. If someone doesn't put on a costume and make an idiot out of themselves on national TV, I do not want to see it. It's some of the best TV for like the first 2.5 episodes. Then it becomes some of the worst TV after that. That's it.
Boring. More comedy, less drama.
Yeah.
Mike, what about you? What did you start watching?
Well, so I'm kind of I don't know, I don't want to say an odd duck, but maybe that's an understatement. Yeah. Thank you. But I struggle to watch shows like all the way through, and maybe it's just some like defense mechanism I have. Like I don't want to get too tied up in watching shows all the time. Of course, now that we're 9 months into COVID, I have a long list of shows that I binge. so like I kind of broke that. I started watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and it's on Amazon Prime, and there are 3 seasons. It's hysterical. It's about a stand-up comedian in the 50s, and she's hilarious. Her manager is just insanely funny. And Antonio Scarpacci, Tony Shalhoub is the father, and he's great. Yeah, and I mean, it's awesome. The show's great. There's season 4 is coming out soon, but it's
That was a
really,
Wings.
really
That was a Wings
funny.
reference. That was a mid '90s Wings reference. For those, that know.
No.
For those that need to know, it's Wings. One of the
That is
best.
a show.
One of
Is
the,
that on anything? I mean, is
dude,
that show anywhere?
I was gonna say, not to take a detour from your story, but if we could binge watch like Wings, that's a fantastic show. And
It's a great
yeah,
show.
Antonio Scarpacci is one of the most underrated comedic foils in the history of
Totally
television.
is.
Totally. Yeah. He'll always be Antonio Scarpacci. I mean, he's not Monk. No way. He's not Monk.
No.
He's like
Yeah.
what's the guy from I can't think of the show. Is it Perfect Strangers? Like Cosinelli? Balky.
Balky,
Yes.
He was like the
Sarcophagus?
Balky of that show. Like the
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. That was a great show.
Oh, I haven't watched The Marvelous Miss Maisel. It's probably too highbrow for me.
Well, it's witty. There's so many shows out there that are either like uber violent or, like they have this kind of weird comedy, but this is just witty. I mean, it's half the show are the stand-up acts and then it's just the conversation. It's really good. I think it's, pretty hilarious. But
Do they release it all at the same time? Because that's
So
what I
that-
get bummed. That's the
Yeah.
thing that the binge sort of time is now making me bummed out. If you
Yes.
go back to shows that are actually released every week, I'm like, what is this? If just one show a week? I'm like, no one watches one show a week. This is stupid.
Maybe that's why I've had this, thing where I didn't want to quite binge everything, because if you get to the end of a season and there isn't, like, the next season hasn't been released, and you spent 14 days watching 5 shows a day to get caught up on this show, and then next thing you know, you have to wait like 11 months for the next season to come out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah, I do that too. And then I'll get so I'll start watching a show, and then if there's not a next one or if there's not a next season, I'll forget about it. And so
Yeah.
I'm halfway through, like Mikey always says, I don't know when you find the time to watch the shows. And I'm like, well, theoretically, I sometimes will watch 2.5 episodes, and then a whole year will go by, and then I'll watch the next 3 episodes, and I get to them. But if I don't watch them in that sitting,
Yeah.
they're out of my head. I have 20 shows that I'm halfway through, and I probably will never finish.
Yeah.
That's our one of the first shows I binge watched during the pandemic was Forever, which was with Fred Armisen and Maya Rudolph.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And
Armisen's so funny.
it's very clever. And they just did one season. There were 10 episodes. It got a little weird at times, but I loved it. And
isn't that like a dark? I haven't seen. It's like a dark comedy ish.
Yeah.
Right?
I won't give too much away, but it's kind of the idea of if you're with someone forever, how you deal with that. And
I love those two so
it's
much.
fantastic. And it's Fred Armisen in his character of being yeah, that's great. Super upbeat. And Maya Rudolph is sort of more okay. So it's
I can't watch either of them without laughing.
She's kind of the comic foil, and he's so it's a great setup with the two of them. But that one, and then we binge watched the Pizza Show, which is
What's the Pizza Show?
okay. So Frank Pinello, I think his name is Frank Pinello. Younger guy, probably younger than us, and he is from Brooklyn and has he's from Brooklyn and he has his own pizza place, but he goes around and finds all these other pizza places. It was we would kind of do his show, and then we would watch David Chang. Ugly Delicious.
Ugly Delicious.
We would kind of go back and forth between those two on our first few weeks of the pandemic, and those were great shows to watch, which it was almost hard to watch because it was we can't go anywhere to get any of this food. But those were kind of our initial ones.
That's how I get most of my ideas when I go out of into another city nowadays, and I'm trying to get something to eat, or if I'm with the family, like, where should we go? Well, let's see what's been on TV. Let's that's basically what we're going to do. Like, was Guy Fieri there? Let's go there. Like, it could be the worst place in the world. And if someone on the Food Channel has eaten at it, I'll be like, we're going there. Let's do it.
Wait, you guys kind of spoke to this before a little bit, but what's a show that you started and kind of gave up on?
Oh God.
Because I will say for us,
So many.
we got really into Stranger Things, and
Yeah.
then we just kind of dropped off, and I kind of felt bad because I liked it. It was a good show. Like, I felt like it had some merit. Like,
There's a lot going on in that show. You gotta be like,
but we just kind of fell off the truck with that, and so that was kind of our.
Do you ever tell people that and they get all like, this has happened with me with other shows. Like, you tell people that you either didn't like a show that was really popular or you didn't finish it, and they're like so mad at you. Like, they're like, what? Like Tiger King. Like, if you haven't seen it, people are like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Leave work right now and go watch it. Leave.
You have to go see it. Yeah.
I don't want to watch it. You have to. No, I don't. It's fine. I'm cool. You're going to watch it. It's like, I feel like people would tell you that if you told them you didn't, like, Stranger Things wasn't your favorite show. People would be like, what? Go back to the beginning.
But is there something that you guys have watched that you're like, partway through, you were like, eh?
So I have two, and this is going to, I think, Todd's going to, to your point, what you just said, you're both going to be like, what in the hell is he talking about? So there are two. One I got through completely, and that was Breaking Bad. And by the end of the show, I detested every single character on that show so much that I was like,
did you watch all the seasons?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And I know, but I can't remember how many seasons there were. Like, I don't know.
Like
5,
a lot,
6, 800. It was like
a lot. That's impressive. That's impressive investment for a show. You're like, none of these people are endearing to me, and I hate every minute of this. But I'm in it now. Too bad.
It's sort of like mile 19 of a marathon, right? You're like, well,
I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter.
So we were out for a walk. This is totally off topic, but we were out for a walk, and there was, like, we had the choice between, going like another mile somewhere or turning back around, and it was going to be farther to go back. And there was a story that Lou Holtz told in one of his books about being a kid and swimming across this river, and kids would get like 3/4 of the way across this mile wide river, and they would be too scared to finish it, and they'd go back the other way. and he's like, well, they swam 1.5 miles because they were too scared. And that's why I like pulled that story out. I'm like, we can't be quitters here. We gotta go the extra mile. And everyone's like, all right, whatever. He's telling this.
Dad's got another Lou Holtz story.
Again. Yeah.
Again.
So anyway, so Breaking Bad was one, and then Ozark was one where I got through the first season, and I was kind of like, like, I'm not dying to see the next season. It's I laughed, and there was some good stuff, but then I also was just so like upset watching it. I'm just like, I
can see. It's funny, like Leanne will say that every once in a while we'll be watching a show, and she said that, I think, with both of those shows, which is like, there's not one person in this show that is like a likable character. I'm like, I think that's the point, especially. I love Ozark, but especially Ozark. Like, every person that show is awful, like awful. Like, humanity is just awful.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we were the same way about Ozark. I mean, Jason Bateman can do no wrong in my head, but and he was great in it. But a few episodes in, I was like, I don't know if I could take this. Like, this is really tough to watch. So.
Jason, I love you. It's okay. These people.
Yeah, right. Jason, when you listen to this,
if you want to come on the podcast, you can just talk to me. I'll do it. I'm trying to think of stuff that I haven't, there's been, I was talking about this the other day, that there's this new thing on, it seems to be on like Netflix and some of the streaming services, where they have a show and they'll say like, oh, it's a new Netflix original series. And then you start watching it and it's like a foreign series, and they've like overdubbed the words in English. Have you seen this? Like this show called like Money Heist. So this show, like everyone's always like, this show is like the best, like, you got to watch it. It's awesome. And it keeps coming up on all the top lists. And I have it on my watch list, and I start watching it. It's supposed to be really good, but I don't know. It's like a show from Spain. I mean, it's really well done, but it's like a show from Spain or France or something. And the people are just like, they're speaking, but they just overdub. They like overdub English over it. And I'm like,
So
what?
it's not subtitled. Like
No, it's not subtitled. I'm like, first of all, it's clearly not a Netflix original. They just bought it from like whatever Spanish television station was running it. And second, they just overdub it. And I can't like, I've tried, like, I'm like an episode and a half in and over like 5 attempts, and I cannot do it because of the overdubbing. I'm like, you're just overdubbing things.
Like,
It's fantastic. You got to watch it. Just watch the first 5 minutes and tell me if it's not the most distracting thing you've ever watched.
just wait for like the
kids
Bruce
love it,
Lee,
though.
like what I mean, Bruce Lee, the kung fu movies. Those were like the
Yeah.
first overdubbed, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're well done. They're not like they're, pulling like stuff out of the basement on 8mm reels. I mean, it's like a well done show, but they just decided like, we're not reshooting this. It's
Yeah.
not worth it. Get those guys in the booth. Have them just start talking.
Has there any show that has given you kind of like where you can't stop thinking about it? Because I will say, so we just watched the I'll See You After Dark, or what? The Michelle McNamara, who went to Notre Dame, her book about the Golden State Killer,
Yeah.
and Patton Oswalt's wife, and we watched that series, and I had dreams a couple nights where there was someone peeking through the window, and
Oh,
like
God.
it was like, it affected me that so much. And now, of course, like what makes me laugh is like our next foray for shows is John was like, I've heard Chernobyl is really good. So I'm like, yeah, sure. And so we're watching that, and I was like, oh wow, like we need to like tone it down a little bit here.
Yeah.
We're
You
getting
guys need to go
into,
the other
like,
way a little bit.
Yeah,
Whatever.
change it up.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, have you watched anything like super heavy that kind of weighed on you a little bit?
Well, we're actually watching Yellowstone right now. I don't know if you have you. Yeah, Karen, have you seen it? Is
that the one with Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not Chernobyl heavy, believe me. It's there's but
It's
but it's
slightly
amazing.
different.
Yeah, but it's amazing how many villains just end up around a ranch in Montana. I mean, it's just crazy. Like every new episode, there's like this new villain that
You're like, start running background checks. Will you people start running background checks? They're like, this guy's a murderer too. How many murderers are here? Everyone who's murdered someone, raise your hand. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, there isn't like a single USA Today story about all the murders occurring in, the middle of Montana, but it's ridiculous. Yeah. But it's, it's one that definitely makes us kind of think, like we're kind of like, oh, okay, that's a little spooky and a little disturbing.
Bring your body armor to Montana.
Yeah. Right. Totally.
I watch all those like reality shows. I think that, like Chernobyl and all that weird stuff. Like I won't watch, like Leanne started watching this show called Evil. I think it's like an NBC show, and it's like all this stuff about like, it's like, like Catholic base, like, and I'm like, I was like 2/3 into the first episode. And I'm like, nope. I'm not doing this thing. Like waking up for dreams and demons over your bed. I'm like, no. Sorry. Back to the 3rd episode of The Bachelor.
It's like, what do you watch with your kids? Like, because I would say around here, The Mandalorian is big.
Oh yeah.
I'm proud of.
Great British Baking Show. You watch Great British Baking Show?
Oh yes. Oh, nice.
That's a big family watch in our house. Great British Baking Show, but mostly it's us watching it, and then my wife and the 2 kids like commenting loudly about the like, that's not gonna rise, James. Like just like random things I'm like, first of all, like what? These poor little people, like they put them in a tent with no air conditioning and like make the best dessert of your life. People are like, well, I don't even know if there's electricity here. So that's a big one in our house. We watch a lot of in our house. And we haven't got, I guess we probably should get into The Mandalorian with the kids. And we watch a little what's the show? We were watching a little Amazing Race at one time, but that kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it fell off for us too.
Yeah. They're still doing it though, aren't they? They're still doing that show.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. It is. I mean, you got to give it to that Phil guy. That Phil guy, you know, he just was like hacking it out for those first couple of seasons. And now he's like 20 seasons in and owns his own island in, you know, own Fijian island. And he's like,
yeah, seriously.
Just stand at the finish line once an episode, and the rest of it I do from a booth.
Kara Spack tried out for that show. She sent a video in.
Did she? Who is her partner going to be?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was a friend of hers from high school that she was gonna go on with because the rest of us were like, no.
Don't you think that if you're like, I have friends that have tried out for reality TV shows, and for the most part, not 100%, but for the most part, my theory is if you're relatively normal, they don't like, like if you're a fairly well-adjusted person, like, sorry, you're not going to make for good. What are you going to get along with your teammate and really try? Oh, okay. That makes for great TV. Remember when that person fell and then you helped them up and then you both crossed the finish line and shook hands? No.
Well, I will say that I would have totally enjoyed watching Kara traipse around like several places. And like, I mean, I've watched her on all of her other game shows and stuff. So
yeah.
Like,
oh God, that would have been awesome to see her, you know, with some of those different immunity channel or whatever they call them in The Amazing Race, those different challenges. And
she would have been great. That's part of the reason that I love her as a friend is we were both always like, you want to do this? And the other one would be like, okay. Like,
yeah. I mean, who just tries out for those things? That's how you get
what we watched, we got Disney Plus in my moments of like being like, what do I do with the girls? Like, we got Disney Plus. But I will say one of the cool parts of getting Disney Plus is there's like forget what it's called. It's like where they show all the Imagineers and kind of what they're coming up with all the time.
Oh, I don't know about this.
Oh,
like you can see
it's
them?
really cool. Yeah. And so you're constantly seeing like, what are they doing now? Like, you know, or there's like a day in the life and it's like a person that works at Disney and those are cool. So we that was kind of our early binge watching, which was fun. But what do people recommend to you? Because I will tell you that when you were talking about Mrs. Maisel, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, everyone recommends that to me. They're like, oh, you do all the comedy stuff, like you should watch that. So that one and Schitt's Creek.
Oh.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I've watched it and I was like, you have to get over the hump of like the first season. Like once you kind of clear that, then you're in.
Yeah. And I feel like, don't you feel like with a lot of shows, you need to watch them at the right time and then get into like, it just happens to have like a banter either online or with friends that gets you sort of like excited about the next thing. Right. Like, so, I did the same thing. I watched like the first season of Schitt's Creek, which like, I don't know, the whole season is like you could binge it in like 2 hours or something crazy like that. Those episodes are like 12 minutes or something. And I was like, oh, it's okay. But I think I was watching it while I was like, I don't know, like on the treadmill or something, like just like passing time. And then like, I didn't watch it for a while and someone started talking about it and I started watching it again and I'm like, oh, it is hilarious. So I needed them to like, give me like a shove. I feel like that was like that with The Wire too. Like I watched The Wire. It was like pretty good, but it was like really dense. And then like people started talking about it and they got into conversation about it. And then I watched it again and then I liked it. Like, and I need someone to
Yeah.
kind of keep me in touch.
Yeah, totally. Well, so I have a question too. If you're binging on, on a show, when do you stop and like go to bed? So like, yeah, right. I know.
When Netflix asks you, when Netflix says, "Are you still watching?"
Yeah, you've had this on for 26 straight hours.
You lazy piece of crap. Do you want to turn off the TV? You haven't pressed, you're so lazy. Netflix says you haven't even pressed a button on a remote.
Who says no? Like,
Are you still watching?
I mean,
who thinks about their
I'm
life and
always
is like, wow.
Yes, Netflix. Yes, I'm still
This is a
watching.
wake-up.
Like,
This is a wake-up
who's
call.
like,
Yeah.
no, actually, I'm gonna go do something productive, and I'm leaving here.
Yeah, I feel bad every time I see that thing, and it doesn't come up a lot, mostly because I'm like too antsy and I'm like moving around. But if you don't press buttons, it's like, wow, I haven't even pressed a button on a remote in that long. Like that's
Yes,
shocking.
right.
That's really bad. Like it's just like laying armless, like
There's no motion detected in this house.
yeah, right. Like just like I feel like you didn't actually roll over on the remote, like just like nothing. Are you alive? Would you like us to call the police?
So, like, assuming you go to bed, right, or you go to sleep, do you go to sleep when a show is over, or do you watch the first, like 5 minutes of the next episode because you're hanging on whatever the last cliffhanger was, and you have to see how that gets resolved, or you want to see how the next episode starts?
Yeah.
My sleeping episodes for the last like 8 months have been where I have the buds for my iPhone, and I put one in the side that I'm not sleeping on, and then turn on something on Netflix or YouTube, and then like I'll wake up like 3 hours later and I'm like, I think I watched like the
You mean
first
like you have it on your
5
phone
minutes.
and you have it on your phone like propped in front of your face?
Yep.
That's pretty good. Do you put
Yes,
a pillow
or
behind
just
it?
laying next to me, and then I just like
That's the best.
like
That's the best. Karen, that's way worse than regular TV Netflix. That's like you're just like, I won't even if you get like another pillow to prop the iPhone up on the and you're on a pillow, then you know that you've reached maximum comfort. You're just like, I'm not even gonna
I have no qualms about the fact that I do that pretty much every night. Like just and when we were talking the other week about going down like wormholes of like, Bill Hader clips and like John Mulaney clips and all that kind of stuff that come up on YouTube, like I'll wake up and I'll hear one of them in my ear and I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. Like I think I started here and then I got here. So, but it's the same way with binge watching stuff. Like I'll turn something on like Netflix on the phone and I'll be like, oh, I probably have to watch that episode again.
Yeah.
I
You
got
can't
through
like,
like 2 minutes of it. So
I'm missing my
that
schedule.
too, Mike?
I will occasionally fall asleep with my in my case it's my Kindle, sitting here in front of me or on my chest or something. But a lot of times I'll try to do that, catch the first 5 minutes just to see,
I always do that.
Yeah, what's going to happen, and then I'll be like, all right, like I'm only going to get 5 hours of sleep tonight. I probably should go to bed. So I shut it off and actually
I do that, but I get through the first like I'll say that and it'll be like the third time when I'll actually do it,
Yes,
right? Like so I'll be like, all right, I can't there's so much this I want to see this thing at the next episode, so I'll watch it, but then I'll make it through that whole episode too. And then the next one,
do it all
finally,
over again.
By the third one at like 1:45, you're like, this is ridiculous. Come on. You have to turn it off just by like pure shame. Like you just shut it off by shame, not by actually needing. Like it's not that I need to sleep so much as this is just not a bad look for an adult. It's up till 2:00 in the morning.
All right. So last question. All right. Throw out your recommendations to other people. What are your recommendations?
Binge watching for shows.
Yeah. Just what have you
Okay.
seen recently or in the past few months that you're like, this is good, you should check it out?
One that we haven't mentioned is Cobra Kai. I don't know if you've seen that,
Yes,
Karen. That's
Yes.
Karen. You have to see that one. That's
I
like
know, it's
so
good. I love it.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
So
it's
good.
hysterical.
good.
You like the the harkening back to the the old days, and
Yeah,
even the new characters are great. I thought it was hilarious and
yeah,
and touching.
Oh, it's so good.
yeah,
It's so good.
yeah.
I'm trying to think about what I've watched recently that I really like. So I've watched I just got done watching, like, I watched a couple of them, these Amazon Prime like all or nothing shows about like the Tottenham Hotspur and some of the English soccer teams,
Mm.
and they're
Yeah.
like so fascinating. I know nothing about soccer, have barely ever played it other than like pee wee soccer. I know absolutely nothing about it, and I feel like it's like I'm just like watching this whole thing, and I'm like, this is like, I don't know, kind of fascinating, kind of weird, like, I don't know. And they're really good. All the all or nothings are good. They've done like a bunch of them with NFL teams, I think, like the Eagles and the Rams and stuff like that. They're really good.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're good. And I think I mentioned this last episode, maybe the one, but Barry with Bill Hader.
Yes.
Yes,
Like
So I started
Barry's-
watching
that's
that.
on my page here. Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh my God.
so
After
good.
you mentioned that last time, I started watching
Oh.
it, and I've been telling Jen about it. I'm like, and she's like, "All right, do you really have to keep talking about the show?"
Oh, that's one that, like, I'm like, you have to go right to watch that show.
Yeah.
Like, it's so good. Oh
Well,
God.
in the other thing, this is hilarious too. So not only is in one of her classes, Jillian's studying 2001, right? But in her English class, she's reading Macbeth right now. And
Oh,
in
nice.
part of Barry is like 6 or 7
Yeah.
episodes in, is they like the acting class is doing Macbeth. And so I'm like, oh my God, I know all the lines from Macbeth now too.
Mostly from
watching the
Barry.
show.
Also from my English, my
Yeah.
very expensive English degree, but
Yeah.
also from
Oh,
Barry.
that too. Yes.
So I would say what I generally recommend to people. So we did just finished I'll Be Found in the Dark, which is fantastic.
If you want to stay up at
Very,
night,
very heavy. But
if you don't want to sleep at night.
Yeah. But I mean, the amount of work that went into Michelle McNamara's, like, what she did was impressive, and and
Yeah.
I love Patton Oswalt, and it's just it's hard to watch, but it's very good.
Yeah.
Excellently, like, well executed documentary. The other one I always recommend to people is John and I watched Away on Netflix, which is Hilary Swank. She goes to Mars.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It
I haven't seen it, but
was
I was like,
way better than I expected it to be. Like, it was really good. We got totally into it. They did one season with like 10 episodes. It's if you want to get away from our world of the pandemic and America and
America.
all that kind of stuff, like, you can dive into that and like watch them like lose water in outer space and be like, oh well, things aren't so bad here. So that was really good. And then my other one was Barry.
oh
But,
yeah. Sorry, I stole it.
So good. No, you didn't steal it. No, it's
Do you guys
good.
find
It's
yourself
so
like
good.
I mean, I know it's an old joke, but like flipping through Netflix for like twice as long as you actually spend like watching the show? Like, I'll just flip forever, seeing it, looks
Yeah.
stupid.
What do they call that? The tragedy of choice.
Yeah.
Like, kind of the idea that, like, when you go to the grocery store, there's like 55 different toothpastes. And
analysis
like,
paralysis.
that's where, yeah, exactly. Like, it makes us like more like nuts.
It's the worst. It's the worst.
Oh, what do I pick? Like, but I think the shows, it makes it hard. Like, there's so many good ones, and Just like, what do
I'll watch
we-
anything. Like I know that Leanne will like she'll joke and she'll be like, you know, if she doesn't like something, she'll be like, so what do you think of the show? Like that's how I know. I'm like, oh, you don't like this one. I was like, what do you think?
Yeah.
And of course, I'm like, you know, I'm like a simpleton, so I'm like, I don't know, it's got like bright lights and things. So if you put another show on there, if you another show that makes noise, I'll probably watch that too. So whatever. Like,
There's farting sounds. So
Yeah.
oh,
Men.
she gets me anytime. Men love farting. Men love farting.
Yeah. Well, this week was a good week for farting sounds. So
Nice. Yes. Oh, Rudy.
yeah, I know. Rudy Tooty. All right. Thank you guys. This was fun.
That was awesome.
As
As
always.
always, yes. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah. And we'll do it again soon.
Word. Awesome.
Bye.